Hey, I'm Levi.
And I'm Bella, and today we're going to talk to you about 5 questions you should ask yourself before you hire a designer.
Question number 1 is, what is your budget? How much are you willing to spend on the entire project?
Realize that every phase of the project costs money, especially if you're outsourcing it. So design fees are one thing, furnishing is another, renovations, install, all of it can add up. So if you get really clear on how much you're actually able to spend, you can compartmentalize those things better and understand what you can afford.
And of course, you can make any space work on nearly any budget, but the less budget you have, the more work you're going to have to do yourself. So outlining exactly what your budget is ahead of time is going to help you know exactly what you can afford to outsource.
Question number 2, what is your scope of work? This question really speaks to, what does the house need? Maybe you just bought an Airbnb that you're excited to set up, but the kitchen is a disaster. Ultimately, you might need to put some budget into renovating that kitchen, or at the very minimum, at least redesigning it, repainting cabinets, things like that. So asking yourself, what is your scope of work? Some of those questions might be renovations, whether or not you want to do an exterior design, maybe you want to add some amenities outside. What else?
Ask yourself as well if you're going to need to hire out contractors, which areas need furnishing, and how high-end you want to go on those areas.
If you can make a basic outline before you ever speak to a designer about what you think your project's going to need, it's going to help you so much getting aligned with your designer.
Question number 3. How much do you want to be involved in the design process?
This is really important because some people are like, I want to micromanage and choose every color, while others are like, you take it off my hands, I never want to step foot until it's finished. And that is a whole different process from a designer's perspective. Hiring out installation or, choosing all of the design boards without even having to consult with you, that will actually make the design process easier and potentially even cheaper.
The more that you hand off, the easier it's going to be for you. Ask yourself if you're okay with something like only virtual design, where you're the one doing the actual installation of the project.
Or maybe you want to be completely hands-off, and that's totally okay too. Get aligned with that before you talk to a designer.
And all of this will depend on where you're at in your investor journey.
Question number 4, do you have a vision in mind?
Having a vision in mind, even a rough one, can really help guide the process.
Ultimately, a designer is there to help bring your vision to life, but having at least a little bit knowledge, like maybe you have a lake house and you want to go lake house vibes, or a cabin and you want it to be more snowed in vibes. Those are just very small visions that can help guide the entire process to bring to your designer.
And of course, there is always the option to not even worry about that and hand that off to the designer. And if that's something that you're wanting to do, then don't even worry about it.
Exactly.
Question number 5. Are you designing for yourself or for ROI?
So this is ultimately the most important question you need to ask yourself. A lot of people get into the Airbnb space and say, oh my gosh, I love making spaces cute and choosing colors and all that. And if you're going to design a space for yourself, that's great. Sounds like a primary residence. For an Airbnb, you need to be thinking about what's going to perform best in the market, what's going to actually stop the scroll, and ultimately what's going to give you more revenue in your pocket. And so that's the main reason you hire a designer. It's not just to make it look good, it's to make it perform well.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, like looking at market analysis and competitors to see what they're doing and how you can compete in that industry.
Exactly. And we always start every one of our projects with a market analysis and a comparables list, so we know exactly what we're up against and how we can win. These are the 5 questions that will ultimately help you create your dream Airbnb space.
Spend some time in a notebook and write out answers to these questions, and let us know if you want any help with your dream space.